Number 2 says, assume that x equals a is a vertical asymptote of this graph of y. And it says, find the sum of all possible values of a. So what this question is really asking you to do is find all the vertical asymptotes of this graph and then add them up. So the first thing that I'm going to do is take our function and I'm going to fully factor it. So the numerator is a difference of squares, and that factors into x plus 5 times x minus 5. And the denominator is x minus 2, and this quadratic factors into x minus 5 times x minus 4. Now, there are 3 values of x that are making the denominator 0, 2, 5, and 4. But remember, we saw in this semester that just because an x is making the denominator 0 does not guarantee that it is indeed a vertical asymptote. The only way to confirm you have found an asymptote is to set up a limit and verify it. But if we look at these factors, the first thing that I see here is that x minus 5 cancels x minus 5. So when the term x minus 5 cancels, it is now eliminated from contention from being a possible vertical asymptote. And in fact, we can actually conclude that x minus 5 is what's called a removable discontinuity. Now, we saw how to graphically identify those, but algebraically what's cool is you see them because they literally remove themselves from the equation. So now we're left with x equals 2 and x equals 4. So in order to confirm that those are indeed asymptotes, we need to set up a limit. So for vertical asymptotes, we set up a one-sided limit. So I personally like to check positive numbers from the right, and I'll check negative numbers from the left. It's just a personal preference because it doesn't really matter which side of the number you look at. So I'm going to take the limit, and it's once this term has been eliminated, figuring out the limit of the remaining terms is sufficient to determining whether or not it is an asymptote. So the limit of x plus 5 over x minus 2 times x minus 4. When we do direct substitution, we get 7 over 0 because this term's going to give us a 0. This is interpreted as some form of infinity. And if we look at our denominator here, 2 from the right is going to give you a slightly small positive number times negative 2. And so we're going to get that this limit approaches negative infinity. Now, all it has to do is approach some form of infinity, and we can conclude that x equals 2 is a vertical asymptote. Let's look at what's going on around 4. Direct substitution is going to give you 9 over 0. Now 4 minus 2 is 2, but 4 minus 4 is an incredibly tiny positive number, and so this is going to work out to 9 divided by some positive, tiny positive stuff, so that's going to work out to be positive infinity, and x equals 4 is also a vertical asymptote. So we have found 2 vertical asymptotes, and 2 plus 4 equals 6 because the question said to add them up. So B equaling 6 is the correct answer.